and today's video lesson we talk about vectors. So vectors are a dynamic array-like structure provided by the standard template library. It's like an array, except you can edit it. Vectors in C++ are used to store a collection of elements, just like arrays are. Automatically manage memory allocation and resizing as needed. This is performed by the standard template library. Vectors automatically manage memory for you, and they resize depending on whether elements are added or removed. And they provide several advantages over raw arrays, like the automatic resizing that we keep talking about, bounds checking, and then there's other methods for manipulation of the vectors. So to use a vector, you need to include the vector header at the beginning of your C++ program. And then almost all the images here are from the code that we're going to go over today. Create a vector for a specific data type using the following syntax. So you write vector, and then in spiky braces, you write the type, and then you write the name of the vector. You can make string vectors, you can make float vectors, you can make different types as you need them. And these are the methods that we were talking about using with the vectors. So to add elements to a vector, you use the pushback method, and it looks like this. And this will add an element to the very end of the vector. And if you want to access specific elements in the vector, you simply do so as you would with a normal array. So in this example, we're accessing the first and second element of a vector that is called int vector, and storing their values in the integer variables first element and second element in this picture. So you just simply subscript, use the subscript operator just like you would with a normal array. So nothing changes there. And the size method returns the number of elements that are stored in the array. When I say it returns something, it's giving you a number. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. That can become very useful to you in the future. You can also use iterators or range-based loops to iterate over vector elements. So to iterate, to just iterate over a vector, you would do so like you would an array. And then this down here is a range-based loop, and it's something we have not covered yet, but they provide a more convenient way to iterate through elements of a container. So in this case, for int element and then the int vector. So int element is what we're going to use for manipulation, and it depends on an index that we're at in our int vector. You can look more into these if you'd like to, or if you want me to make a video about these, just let me know and I'll do so for you. The popback method removes the last element in the vector, and the clear method removes all the elements from the vector. And to check if the vector is empty, you use the empty method, and this returns a Boolean true or false depending on whether the vector is empty or not. So again, it returns a value, and that can become useful to you in the future. And that's it for this slideshow. So here is the code that we were going to discuss today. And if you want to copy the code, you can. I'll just slowly kind of scroll down so you can pause the video where you need it. So here's the whole code. And then you can press pause wherever you need to and copy the code. And that's why I'm going slow like this, so it's easier for you. All right, so that's the entire code. So this is vectors in action. This is going to, we have our first line, which creates a vector called stats, and we have our variables or declarations, of course. And we wanted to make a way to continuously loop through these choices. So while the user selects a Y or a capital Y and want to continue, then we add to the vector number one, remove the last number of the vector number 2, return the first element of the vector number 3, return the last element of the vector number 4. What is the size of the array number 5? Clear the vector number 6. And 7 is to check if the vector is empty or not. So we will go ahead and we will run this code. So I'm running it right now. And it's just going to take a second because I have to build too. All right. And we're ready. Okay. So the first thing I want to do with this vector is to add items into it because right now it's empty, so there's nothing in there. So my choice is going to be number 1, I believe, to add a number to the vector. Yeah. So 1, and I'm going to add the number 1, and then I want to continue y, and then I'm going to add another number, and then this number is going to be 2, and then I want to continue y, and then finally I'm going to press 1 again. Let me scroll down a little bit. What is your choice? Okay. Enter a number to be added. We're going to add 3, and then I want to continue. I press Y. And then now I can start doing some of the other choices in the selection. So we've already added numbers to the vector, and now we want to remove the last number of the vector. We would simply press the 2 and press enter. And it says the number 3 was removed because at 0, 1, 2, location 2 has the number 3. And this is what's happening. It's using the method stats.back to remove, or it's using stats.back to display the last item in the vector, and it's using popback to remove that value. Next, we're going to pick, where do we go from here? Okay. Next, we're going to pick option number 4. So this is going to return the last element of the vector. It should be 2 at this point. The last element of the vector is 2 because we removed 3 previously, and we'll continue from here. And then number 5 gives us the size of the vector. So we'll press 5. And the size of the vector is 2. And where do we go? Oh, okay. So number 5 is the size of the vector. That gives us stats.size. And then when we were in number 4, the last element of the vector, we use stats.back to reveal what the last number was in the vector. And again, these are returning numbers. So they're showing the number. You can store these numbers however you want. You can manipulate them however you want. It's up to you. And you have that option now because now you have vectors in your toolbox. Okay, and then finally, you can clear the vector and then you can check if the vector is empty. So I'm going to press yes to continue. And my choice is 6 to clear the vector. And the vector has been cleared. And the way we did that is by using the vector name dot clear parentheses. And this is how we clear the vector of anything inside of it. And then we're going to check if the vector is empty or not. So I'm going to press number 7, and it should be empty, so it should return true. And it says the vector is empty. And number 7. Okay, so if stats.empty is true, then we return the vector is empty, which it was, so it returned true. Otherwise, it would return that it's not empty. So this is the method you would use to check if the vector is empty or not. And that can conclude our code here. With vectors, you now have a dynamic way to allocate items to a structure, and these are often more useful than arrays, or in your programming experience, you'll probably be using them more because arrays, they are a fixed size and it's predetermined. You have to know how many elements are going to go in it. And sometimes that's useful, of course, but sometimes it's not. And now you have a way to do that. And something that I didn't do that I should have done when I was learning just like you was to start using vectors more often in my coding projects. I stuck to using arrays because I was scared of the new thing. And And that was a mistake because vectors are really helpful and useful, and they provide, you have methods that you can use, and they make things much easier for you. And they would have been more useful considering the types of projects I was doing. So please start using these, practice these, start using them in your assignments. And that'll conclude this video lesson. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.